Hi, host Ken here. We have host Eric, host Taylor, and host Katie with us here. We're going to be talking about socionics basics today. Going to be a little bit of comparison with MBTI, but wanted to kind of have a fresh start to socionics. Going to be talking about the Model A with the cognitive functions. All 8 would be present in the socionics model, and we're going to be switching out back and forth between me and Eric. I believe he's going to take it away.
Yes, I am, host Ken. I'm going to tell you about the numbers, which is to say we're not going to use socionics numbers. We're going to use MBTI numbers. So for me, ENTP, NE is 1, SI is 4, NI is 5, SE is 8. So those are the numbers we're going to use. However, those numbers are not actually the numbers, the order in which the functions come in socionics. We won't ever use socionics when we're referring to it. We won't ever use their numbers. Instead, we'll refer to it as which block it's in and its name. So Ken's going to go over that right now because I don't have that memorized or anything like that.
Let me pull the screen. Okay, so in the different blocks, the way that they're split up is that in the socionics model A, there is the ego block, which would be the strong conscious block. The weak conscious block would be the superego block. The id block would be the strong unconscious, and the super id block would be the weak unconscious. So it's basically they're split up as 2 conscious blocks and 2 unconscious blocks, separated by what is strong and what is weak.
Okay, so
Uh,
the MBTI 1 and 2 functions for me, NETI, for you, NIFE. What are those 2 functions called in socionics? What are the names? What's number 1 called?
Number 1 called in socionics. Are you saying according to the blocks?
Yeah.
Yeah, according to the blocks, the primary function would be called the leading function or the accepting, or it's a leading function, and it's described as accepting.
Okay, what about the second one? That's the creative function in socionics, right?
Second one is the creative function.
So we
It's
will be
considered
using, if we're
producing.
using the names, we're going to be using the socionics names here and talking about this. So 1 is leading, 2 is creative, 3
Mm-hmm.
is what? Now remember, the third cognitive function for MBTI is not going to be the third for socionics. So
Mm-hmm.
the third for MBTI, which is for me FE, and for host Ken would be TI. Which function is that in socionics? Host Ken, what's it called?
Socionics, it would be the 6th, and it would be in the super id block in the weak unconscious, and it's considered the mobilizing function. It is also a producing function.
Okay, so MBTI 3 is mobilizing. MBTI 4 is what?
MBTI 4 is the suggestive function. It would be the 5th. It would be in the same block as the MBTI number 3 in this case. So it would be in the super id block.
All right, so socionics basically sees the first 2 functions as what block? It's called the ego block, right? The
First
creative.
block is the ego block.
And the second block in MBTI is the third and fourth function. That would be called the super id block, right?
Yes.
Now, the next 2 functions in MBTI, the fifth, sixth, that would be for me, NI and TE. For you, it would be NE and FI. What are those ones called in socionics?
That would be in the id block, which is the strong unconscious. The MBTI number 5, which in this case would be the number 7 in the socionics model A, in my case would be extroverted intuition, is considered the ignoring function.
Okay.
I think sometimes referred to as the opposing.
Okay. I like the name ignoring. Let's use that one. That's one I've been using for that one. So, okay, the ignoring function is the one that you ignore because it's the dark side of your dominant function. And then the MBTI 6 function is called
That would be the demonstrative function.
the demonstrative function. So you demonstrate yourself through that mechanism. As it's often seen that I demonstrate myself through TE, at least in certain classroom settings where I'm setting up certain orders of operations. Or at the beginning of this video, right? I gave a little roadmap, said let's do it like this, and I gave instructions on step by step. Now Ken is an INFJ. Not only is not good at TE, but he's antagonistic about it. So he started scowling at me because he didn't like getting instructions. INFJs do not like being given instructions. So anyway, but I thought it was a good idea anyway because I don't know, we were trying to do something that was a little bit more purposeful, I guess, here. And it's always good to roadmap shit. So anyway, that would be me demonstrating my nature, but in MBTI it says that's unconscious. That's not necessarily the case in socionics. We'll get to that a little bit later. Now the polar function is the seventh in MBTI. Polar stands for place of least resistance. For me it's FI. For Ken it's TE. For Taylor it's FI, and et cetera, et cetera.
How's it least resistant? I
mean, it means.
What's that mean?
Okay, well, let's focus on that particular thing, that question, after we finish this quick overview of 7 and 8. Okay, so that one we know is place of least resistance is what is called 7. Okay, MBTI 7 is place of least resistance. 8 is called what in socionics again?
The 8th in MBTI.
Yeah, MBTI 8 is called
the 3rd in socionics, model A, and this would be called the role function.
Okay.
Is in the superego block, which is the weak conscious.
Okay, so we have the role and then the place of least resistance. Are they in the same block?
Place of least resistance?
That's 7th. Might be called vulnerable.
7. It's called the vulnerable function. They're in the same block.
Okay. Most people refer to it as the polar function. Because
okay. Explain polar.
It just stands for place of least resistance, PoLR. Okay. And it basically, the reason I like that name is because of what it explains. That for me, I understand it as I have very little resistance to FI. I have little resistance to feeling my own feelings. But I also have little access to them. And so I feel them when I feel them. Because I've kind of gotten past my antagonism towards it, that I think is natural when something's in your polar spot. I look for ways to understand it a little bit better, which means I'm open to experiencing emotions and flashes throughout the day, but it doesn't really help me understand it a whole lot better. And I still am antagonistic when people try to use feelings-based arguments and things that I think that's inappropriate. I feel. Let's see, that's called polar FI.
A lot of fucking resistance. Most resistance to your silly shit.
Taylor,
I think you could use that.
Do you know what? Yeah, this you understand that Katie has much great things to teach you about introverted feeling. She's an introverted feeling dominant. It's of great value. Taylor, you won't truly understand what you want and how to get it until you understand your own feelings about things.
Is that true?
It's true. I don't quite understand mine.
Justify your own stroll down evil lane.
Stroll down the evil lane? No, it made me nicer. It's not made me more evil.
Emo.
Oh, emo lane.
I can't.
What do you think, Katie?
I can't explain to him on how I think kind of in feelings. For them to get it.
But the problem here, Katie, is that you are being tasked with using his medium to explain a medium that's not symbolically representable by words. So the whole notion of introverted feeling is that it defies words. As ENTPs, our identities are built almost entirely of words, and as a consequence, the notion that there exists out there something that has validity beyond words is appalling to us. It's like,
You know,
but
I didn't figure that out until I watched your video about ENTPs. I think you were in the car just explaining to them, and all of a sudden I kind of felt bad for you little suckers that don't have any feelings.
Why? We've got fucking words. That's how the
Because-
world operates. We can operate.
Taylor, look, the thing is, we do have feelings, Katie. That's the thing. We have lots of feelings. We just aren't comfortable with using them as they're supposed to be used, because to use them means to reject every other technique that we have before it. You know, it's like we've got a whole toolbox of shit, all of which is incompatible with this one weird, like, 7-prong Scandinavian outlet that you have to have like 6 adapters to make it work, right? And so we're just like, no, fuck that shit. We should never, and nobody should ever use that kind of adapter. Nobody should ever use that kind of outlet. That's totally stupid. It's only in Iceland that they use that. They need to standardize. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was a good explanation.
But the thing is, everybody has the same experience with their PoLR. So that's why host Ken doesn't like TE. And that's why he was not very, very conducive to, because I said so.
I'd actually like to talk about that a bit more, but I would say that this sort of theme that we're doing is pretty much trashed at this point. We deviated from topic.
I mean, I don't think so. We went to PoLR. I said let's focus on PoLR when we get done with 8. I mean, I didn't think that was a deviation. That's where we're going.
You got to PoLR, but then you started talking about FI, and then we started talking about FIs and ENTPs and how ENTPs are.
FP talking. Shut up, Ken.
They're all connected.
Okay, well, look, it's the quickest access point for me anyway into understanding the PoLR function. And I was just shifting right now to talk about your TE. But instead, I got pushback on what? My exercising TE. Because you didn't like it. And so you're like, yeah, we're off topic anyway now. Now, the thing is, normally that would consider a TE kind of response. But I see it more as an FE response to an antagonism to TE. Now, others might say right now I'm displaying a polar relationship with FI because I should, if I had more highly prioritized FE or FI, prioritize your feelings, but I've also have this TI-centered approach, which is metaing it to make it that how I always operate, which sort of mushes out everything or something. I don't know. Well, whatever you think about it.
If it seems like I'm being antagonistic at all, or at least just frustrated, it's because I had my own idea of how to do things, and
We know that.
right, yeah.
That's fine. And listen, I am not responding to you as Taylor has responded to you. I think that I would like it to see us execute those ideas as you want them executed.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that we laid out at the outset was to go through the 8 things and then sort of see how it goes, right? Or not? No.
I mean, I may have agreed to that, but that's not what I wanted to do.
Okay. This, though, okay, so look, this regardless, I would like to take this opportunity to use this particular disagreement / misunderstanding, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
No, what I'm saying is this is its own thing, separate from the other vision that I have about this. So I'm talking about it more of, can we separate this and delve into this more, because I think it's good enough to warrant delving into.
Okay, well, I'm saying the same thing. We are in such agreement. Our agreement is agreeing with each other to agreeable degrees.
We're agreeing so hard right now.
Yeah, we are.
It's unbelievable.
And so the point I'm saying is, look, the place of least resistance for Katie, for example, your place of least resistance is
She's an FI dominant,
FE.
ISFP.
what's her third? No, what's her third function? It goes FISE.
Oh, it's FE. It's FISEF. Fucking A.
No,
So it would be NE would be
it's
her
NE.
at the
It's
least
NE.
resistance.
Her place of least resistance is NE. So that's why ENTPs want to jump to the defense of ISFPs. Because we see them as defenseless because they can't, they have a place of least resistance relationship with possibility generating, which means that that the last thing in their toolbox is to come up with a clever, creative argument to counter something. So they're unlikely to come up with to be like, you know, she's very unlikely to come out of left field with something and be like, actually, Taylor, I don't think you really considered how inconsistent that is with the previous normative claims you were making. Blah 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 blah. She's very unlikely to do that at any point. Just like, boom, and you're like, what the fuck? Where did that response come from? Because she's not spending any of her first set of attentions on coming up with possibilities. That's her seventh slot. That's what it means. It's like your last choice tool is that oddly designed outlet, like I talked about. So, in the way it's supposed to happen is anytime in the world Taylor sees somebody else trying to bust your chops, Katie, or like try to win an argument with you or of any sort, he's gonna jump in and argue on your behalf. Presumably. That's the theory. Is that true? Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
Does anyone even argue with you whenever? I mean,
No.
people just don't start shit whenever anymore.
Pretty much.
Oh, Taylor.
He tries to.
There's
In
a
the
carrot
same way
too,
that
you know.
I think in the same way that's why she sees the ENTPs as these sort of sad who need help with their emotions.
Right, because we have our reverse polars, right? So it's the same thing. It was a sensible relationship in that regard, except
World of possibilities. Like, I know there's like a world of possibilities out there, but how did I describe it the other day? I'm not original at all. I don't my own stuff.
well, originality might be. It has its place and has other places that it's not such a useful thing to have too. So
I have a theory that like I tell her that she wouldn't survive in the wild. And that's really just any place like without me or some other person like defending her
But
right to not
that's a survival technique.
is
They are
right.
resilient.
That is a fucking survival technique. You're sneaky more.
Okay, so let's talk about other possible ways that polars manifest. I want to talk more about TE. Ken, do you feel if I were to say to you, I want you to break down this not super complicated task into 10 steps that somebody else can follow a set of instructions to complete the task, how do you feel about that assignment?
Well, that question in a vacuum, I don't know exactly how I would respond. Responding more to what occurred earlier, it was like you had like your own idea of like, okay, we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and it was like I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's like for me, when I see TE get activated in certain ways, it's frustrating. It's like frustrating in some way because I have my own idea about how I want to go about something, but it's not necessarily caught up in the what I call minutia, or even okay, we do step one, then we do step two, and then we do step three. I'm like, to me, I'm like looking out further.
You got
So
your
it's
whole
like-
idea, your NI idea, okay?
It's
That's
like
the
I'm
first
trying to
thing.
cast out a fishing rod, and then you catch it at the last second. And you're like, well, no, you got to reel back, and then you go. I'm like, I was doing that already. It would have been done, except you stopped me just to point out that hey, you got to do step A and then step B. It's like I fucking know that.
I know, and we totally would have done a great job of getting there. Just after we'd finished our Thanksgiving turkey, we would have gotten to the conclusion of that paragraph, I'm sure. The thing is, it's not just a matter of getting to it, it's a matter of getting to it with alacrity, right? That's why I intervened, because it was taking forever for you to say what it is we were going to talk about.
But how did you know what I was going to talk about? Because you came up with your own idea about what I was going to talk about before I fully was able to explain what it was that the vision was.
It wasn't for lack of time afforded.
But was it time enough if the vision wasn't explained?
I don't have it.
If I gave you an hour and you spent 55 minutes humming and hawing, and you had spent the last 5 minutes talking, and you're like, I didn't have enough time to explain myself, well, then whose fault is that? Now, granted, it wasn't an hour. Granted, it wasn't an hour.
It wasn't an hour.
This is live television. There's a high standard to be met here. Okay.
I think the idea of you giving me an hour for anything seems a little gratuitous.
Well, look, when I'm trying to explain something about TE here, host Ken. All right, I'm trying to stay on topic, and I appreciate it if you wouldn't mess with my holistic vision in a way that hurts my feelings. So, okay, it really it's causing me all sorts of problems.
I want to talk about something funny there because I just had a thought. You were talking about wanting to stay on topic, and in my mind, I'm like, right, but it might be that you're too short-sighted. You may not understand that the topic would change.
Host Ken, you're fucking laying the lumber on me here. When did you get all these weapons? I forgot your INFJ. You can turn nasty. Oh, you had that INFJ whip out here. Pya!
See, I'm just trying to understand this. It's like for me. What was I going to say? Shoot, I lost it. It's gone.
Well, look, it's all well that ends well, and this will end well when we finish talking about TE. Well, it all ends poorly if it ends poorly. I agree. Nobody's disputing that, host.
Then it might end positively. It might end in a way that you haven't considered. Not considering enough possibilities, Eric.
Are you suggesting that it might end poorly even if it ends well? That would seem contradictory, host Ken.
Well, not necessarily. Time's a factor. I've heard it said that the victories of one generation eventually become the defeats of another.
Well, in my mind... What?
That's an interesting quote. The victories of one generation eventually become the defeats of another. That's an interesting quote.
I think I read it in a YouTube comment somewhere. I hope I'm not plagiarizing someone horribly.
But that's a really strange comment. I don't even...
and
new problems arise off the sort of what was created. Like what was created by the actions of today is fuel for the problems of tomorrow, is another way that I put it.
Oh, okay. So it's like a climate change thing. It's only true in certain instances. Okay, but that's not related to what we're talking about here, Host Ken. We're talking about TE. We're talking about Host Ken's relationship with his expert thinking.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about polars, okay? Now, staying on topic is...
I'm drinking this pink.
I'm drinking orange soda. What is that, rosé?
Drinking water from a Jesus mug. It's my dad's. So
that's actually a Jesus mug. Easy to get those confused.
It's a Muhammad.
Right.
I wish it was like an Irish one, because then it would say like Jaysus. Jesus.
Well, you know what I think we should do to stop this video? We should start the next video and have a meeting